Más bien no importa si eres norteño, chilango, del istmo, yaqui, maya, cajeta o fiera. Esta es tu tierra. Tenemos un mismo origen que no se divide ni se olvida. Porque aunque haya más de un México, México siempre es uno. Cerveza Indio.
I never stop, no, I don't quit. And when I swing, I don't miss. You ain't never seen nothing like this, yeah. You ain't seen nothing like this. Come on and give me some more. You ain't seen nothing like this.
Tus artistas favoritos son escuchados online, pero ellos solo se llevan una pequeña fracción de las ganancias. Por eso decidimos hacer algo al respecto. Marvin presenta Tip Jar. Ve a marvintipjar.com y baja la extensión para tu browser. Escucha a tu banda favorita y cada que hagas clic esa canción será disfrutada 100 veces más, generando más ganancias y creando más fans para los artistas sin costarte un solo centavo. Solo recuerda todo lo que la música te ha dado y que con solo un clic puedes darles algo a cambio.
Vota en miau.mtvla.com. Miau 2017, desde la Ciudad de México. Estreno. Domingo 4 de junio. Solo por MTV.
Nos une la misma pasión, el humor bien picosito. La culpa es de Cortés.
Un pelaje satinado con textura ligera y sedosa, colores radiantes y una cabellera intensamente brillante. Adopta un carácter irresistible con el poder de deslumbrarte. Adoptaunchico.com.mx.
¿Un juguito de zanahoria?
¡Corte!
No venimos del mismo lugar, más bien no importa si eres norteño, chilango, del istmo, yaqui, maya, cajeta o fiera. Esta es tu tierra. Tenemos un mismo origen que no se divide ni se olvida. Porque aunque haya más de un México, México siempre es uno. Cerveza Indio.
I never stop, no, I don't quit. And when I swing, I don't miss. You ain't never seen nothing like this, yeah. You ain't seen nothing like this. Come on and give me some more. You ain't seen nothing like this.
Tus artistas favoritos son escuchados online, pero ellos solo se llevan una pequeña fracción de las ganancias. Por eso decidimos hacer algo al respecto. Marvin presenta Tip Jar. Ve a marvintipjar.com y baja la extensión para tu browser. Escucha a tu banda favorita y cada que hagas clic esa canción será disfrutada 100 veces más, generando más ganancias y creando más fans para los artistas sin costarte un solo centavo. Solo recuerda todo lo que la música te ha dado y que con solo un clic puedes darles algo a cambio.
Vota en miau.mtvla.com. Miau 2017, desde la Ciudad de México. Estreno. Domingo 4 de julio. Solo por MTV.
Nos une la misma pasión, el humor bien picosito. La culpa es de Cortés.
Un pelaje satinado con textura ligera y sedosa, colores radiantes y una cabellera intensamente brillante, adopta un carácter irresistible con el poder de deslumbrarte. adoptaunchico.com.mx.
¿Quieres un juguito de zanahoria?
¡Corte!
Evita el exceso, que no venimos del mismo lugar. Más bien no importa si eres norteño, chilango, del istmo, yaqui, maya, cajeta o fiera.
Y un grupo legendario llamado Television. Él es, digamos, el integrante más nuevo de la banda. Entró apenas hace poco, hace 10 años, a este grupo que tiene un montón de tiempo ya tocando, y platicaremos con él acerca del proceso de la banda, de producción de discos, de su andar por la industria musical. Si alguno de ustedes quiere algún audífono para la traducción simultánea, puede recogerlos acá a la entrada, son gratuitos, no tienen ningún costo, se los prestamos con mucho gusto, porque esta entrevista la vamos a conducir completamente en inglés, pero ponemos esa herramienta para que todos ustedes estén pendientes y no se pierdan de nada. Un aplauso, por favor, para Jimmy Rip.
Por favor.
Thank you very much, Jimmy, for joining us.
Un placer.
Do you speak Spanish?
Mi castellano is mierda.
Not really.
Now, I want to hear the translation of that.
Okay. Because you've been living in Argentina for a while by now. How long?
Vivo en Argentina 8 años. Toda gente habla inglés con mí.
Okay. So you've been living.
So I never learn. It's impossible. Mi castellano is muy mal. So people go, "Oh, Jimmy, por favor, habla inglés." So that's what happens.
Which is what's happening right now.
That's what's happening right now. Again, it's happening
once again. No. Then, so you've been living in Argentina for 8 years, but you've been a part of television for 10 years.
Yes.
How come you joined to this outfit 10 years ago, and then after 2 years you decide to go and live elsewhere? What happened?
I've been playing with Tom Verlaine since 1981.
Okay.
So, 36 years. And in 2007, when Richard Lloyd decided he would leave television, I can't listen to the translation. It's driving me crazy.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah. When Richard left the band, it was very natural for the band to ask me to join because I'd been playing with Tom for so long, and I knew Fred Smith, the bass player, even longer. So to go from playing with Tom to being in television was not even a thing that needed any thought.
Yeah, what was your first show with television?
Well, a little feedback. Do we have any sound man?
Un poquito de
boop. We need a sound check.
acá. Mm-hmm.
The first show, well, in 2007, I was in New York working on another project, and television had a very big show in Central Park. Richard had announced that would be his very last show with the band, that he was leaving the band.
Was it like Summer Stage or something
It was
like
Summer
that?
Stage, exactly. And Richard got very, very sick. He wound up in the hospital. He had pneumonia and some other problems. And because the show was for the city, it was impossible to reschedule. So with 2 days in advance, the band asked me if I would play the show for Richard. And I had to think about it because, in New York City, television is a very big thing. So I was worried I would hear a lot of, "Hey, where's Richard?" But I said, okay, because they're my friends, forever. So I learned the rest of the songs, and that was the first show. It went very, very well. It sounded great. Everyone was happy. And so right after that, they asked me to join television.
Now, take us back to 1977 when Marquis Moon was released. It's been...
What the hell was I doing? Yeah.
40 years. What were you doing back then? When was the first time that you listened to Marquis Moon, this classic album?
At that time, I'm a little bit younger, about 7 or 8 years than the other guys in the band. For a long time through the 70s, I had been a session musician and playing with a lot of acts and a lot of bands and a lot of people in New York City playing on records and movie soundtracks, all kinds of things, playing sessions every day. And I really enjoyed making money. I still do.
That's a nice hobby.
Everyone does, yeah. But television and the CBGB's Lower East Side, East Village thing at that time was a very, it was very poor, and it was a very dangerous neighborhood, very, very dangerous neighborhood. And even though I lived just 20 minutes walking, I could have walked there at any time. It's like the East Village and the West Village were very separate. I lived in the West Village, and very unusual to go from one side to the other. So I never actually went there in the 70s. I was aware of all these bands, Blondie and Talking Heads and the Ramones. The Ramones I knew because we came from the same neighborhood in Queens.
Yeah.
So I knew those guys. But all those other people, I didn't know. It wasn't until later. That I started to play with a lot of people at CBGB's. But at that point, that whole original scene had finished. All those bands became very successful and were playing in much, much bigger places. I was aware of Marquis Moon, but when that record came out, it wasn't a huge record. It wasn't a very big band, like, wow, the new Rolling Stones record. It wasn't like that. It was, a very small scene, a very small thing. The critics loved it, people on the road, music journalists loved it, but amongst just regular people, it was kind of unknown.
And what were you listening to at the time?
Well, like I said, at that time, it was a very different scene, and things were very separate. And that rock scene in the East Village was very small until Blondie exploded and until Ramones' first record exploded, very big. But no kind of regular musicians listened to those things. It became like it was a very special moment. It was a very special scene. And it was small. It was small at the beginning, very, very small. CBGB's was half the size of this room.
Yeah.
It was a very small place. Only maybe 200 people could hear a show at any time. So I was listening to everything. I grew up in a time when the radio still had a dial that you could spin. And when I was learning to play, I began to play guitar when I was 6 years old. When I was learning to play, I would sit with the radio and I would opera, and I would play with the opera for a while until I got bored and Then I would spin the dial again, and country music. I would play country music for a while, and that's how I learned to play many, many different things, because I get bored very quickly. So for me, it was great to try to learn all these different styles, and it's how I became aware of so many different things, and it's what has enabled me to work with so many different people, from Mariah Carey to Jerry Lee Lewis to Mick Jagger to Deborah Harry to Willie Nelson to, you know, all these different people. Very, very different, very different. And usually musicians don't go from one to the other, but because I had that kind of beginning, it allowed me to do that, which was great. You know, I've really had a great time doing that.
We'll talk about those collaborations a little bit later, but keeping in time, what made you go and play with Tom Verlaine, who is like this cult figure and not really a mainstream artist like some of those that you just mentioned? You started your creative relationship with him back in '81. How did that start, and where was the fire that you found together?
Like I said, at that time I was playing with many, many people, small people, big people. I didn't care. You know, I just loved to play, and if I was playing on a record in the daytime and playing in a small bar or a big place at night, that's when I was the most happy. If I could play from the time I woke up till the sun came up the next day, then that was a very good day for me. So it was a moment in Greenwich Village on Bleecker Street when there were many, many bars and clubs, a club, you know, for 6 blocks. And I was kind of the king of those clubs. Every singer-songwriter, it was the time of the person with the acoustic guitar who wrote his songs, very heartfelt, but then they needed a band to play on their record or play in a live show. And a lot of people knew me as someone who could make a band very quickly, that would be very good musicians and was able to do one rehearsal and go play a really good show. So I was always looking for great musicians who could do that with me. And I found, through some other people, I found Fred Smith, who's the bass player in television, and I found J.D. Doherty, who's the drummer with Patti Smith. And the three of us wound up playing 30 different bands together. You know, I mean, we sometimes we would play with the opening act and the main act, and we'd bring different clothes so that we would look a little bit different between the two bands. But when television broke up and Tom made his first solo discos, he wanted to play live and he wanted to put a band together, and Fred and JD had played on Tom's first solo record. So when he went to make a tour for that, he needed another guitar player, and it was, again, very natural for them to call me and say, hey, you should come play with Tom. So I auditioned, and it sounded great, and we had a great time, and everybody laughed, and I thought it went perfect, you know, and I enjoyed the music, and I heard nothing, and one day went by, and another day went by, and like 4 or 5 days went by, I heard nothing, and finally Fred called me, and he said, well, Tom really liked you, and Tom really liked the way you played, and he thought it was really good, but he wanted to know, do you have to wear those shoes? And I said, what shoes? I didn't even remember what shoes I wore. Well, I had a pair of white, like beetle boots, but very destroyed. And, you know, it was like the time of, you know, new wave, Joe Jackson. And, you know, it was like, that was the style, you know, pointy white leather boots, but, you know, destroyed. And I think I had those on that day just because that's what I wore that day. It wasn't like I got dressed up. And I said, well, what shoes? He said, no, Tom hates white shoes. And the job is yours if you don't have to wear those shoes. I'm like, I don't give a shit about the shoes. So I almost didn't have 36 years of playing with Tom because of a pair of shoes. So I'm very glad they actually asked and didn't just say, "Oh, that guy wears white shoes. We can't have him in the band." So so that's how it started. And we've played so many different versions. He and we've done acoustic duos, electric duos. We have a project that we did. We made new music for very old silent films called Music for Experimental Film, oddly enough. So we've been all around the world together for the last 36 years and had a very good time. Thank God, about the shoes. But that's how it started.
So at this time, when you're joining him, you were playing with everyone around, but there's a fine line between playing songs and writing songs. Were you writing songs at the time?
Was I right? Yeah, oh sure. But I mean, Tom writes. Tom is the writer of songs for Tom and for television. I think I have credit for writing one song on a Verlaine solo record. One. But that's okay. I wrote part of the song and he gave me credit. It's not like he doesn't like to give credit. It's just Tom's songs are very, very special and they mean a lot to him, and he takes a long time to write songs and he has a lot of songs, so he doesn't really need another writer. And that's okay, that's great. I mean, I've written songs with a lot of other people, and I write a lot of songs for myself. I have a lot of songs in a bag somewhere that have never been recorded. So, I really enjoy writing songs, but, Tom's good. Yeah. He doesn't need anyone else.
Do you know when did you write your first song?
Oh, I think I was 6 or 7, something to do with Mommy and the choo-choo train, or I can't remember, something.
But it took you a long time to release your very first album.
Yeah,
very first
that's
album,
very true.
Because that didn't
I was
happen
40.
Up until 97.
I was 40.
Wow, up until 97, right?
Well, 96, yeah. Yeah, 96.
What took you so long?
Well, because I was playing with the best people in the world, and there wasn't a lot of time. And after I finished playing with Mick Jagger for a few years, and we made the Wandering Spirit record, after that, I kind of really thought, well, what do I want to do? Jagger was always my favorite singer. He was always my favorite songwriter, with Keith, of course. And after that, I thought, well, who can I play with? Who's left? I'd played with so many people, and I didn't want to just go play with another person. So I stopped accepting gigs with people, and I thought, well, if I still had hair at the time, and my knees were still working very well, and so I thought, well, if I'm ever going to make a record for myself, I should do it now. So I took about a year, and I put together a very good blues band, and that's the music that's kind of the closest to my heart, and so I made that record in '96 for the House of Blues record label.
And are there any collaborations in that album? Is that you and your band?
It's me and my band. Mick played harmonica and sang on one song with me, and I had some invitados. But Carrie Bell, the great Chicago harmonica player, played with Muddy Waters and Helen Wolf, and he plays harmonica on one song, and there's a couple of other cool people on that record. But mostly it's just my band.
Have you ever felt like starstruck, because you're just sleeping names like this, just like Mick Jagger, like Keith? That's Keith Richards. Have you ever?
I know that I do that, and honestly, I'm aware of it, and I don't mean to be like a pretentious person, or, but that's. No, I've never felt starstruck, but also that's just been my life, and I'm the very first person to recognize the luck of that. And you know, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice. You sacrifice a lot of your personal life, and you sacrifice a lot of time. And you also spend, it's a very big hardship because you spend a lot of very late nights getting drunk in bars and meeting people, which is the hardest part of the, trust me, it's just difficult. You know, that's just always what I wanted to do, always. So, I mean, all the other things that a lot of people, you know, like they get married or they do this or they do that, all the things that have stuck with other people, you know, it may be very, I don't know if it's cold or if it's wrong or whatever, but it's just my life, and if one of those things got me stuck in a certain place, I was unhappy about letting it go, but sometimes you have to let things go because, you know, the other thing was really, really my life, you know, really what I cared about the most was, and luckily I was able to go to the top of those things, to play with the best people. And it's been the same way in Argentina now. And very fortunately, because of the things that I did with Mick Jagger and other people, in Argentina, like Mexico, they have a lot of respect for the history of the music, and people know the history of the music, and they know what musicians played on what records, and and in Argentina, it's the most Rolling Stones crazy country in the world. If Mick or Keith wanted to be president tomorrow, Macri would be gone in a helicopter in 1 hour, and you know, Keith would be sitting in Casa Rosada. I don't know how the economy would work after that, but you know, that's a whole other story. But because of that, I was able to go to Buenos Aires, and I was immediately meeting and working with the biggest people and the best people, and everybody wanted to say hello, and everybody wanted to play some music or have me work with them in some way. So it's been just a continuation of that kind of a life, and very lucky to have that happen. Because I on and on and on I'm going, but in the United States, the high regard for guitar music and rock and roll has just gone down so quickly. It's a lot of electronic music and a lot of pop music and a lot of not music. It's a lot of people playing games and doing a lot of other things. There's so many more distractions than the 60s or the 70s, when to be a rock star was such a heavy, great thing. It was a desired thing. Not so much now in the States, but in Argentina, and I think here, people still have such a big passion for rock and roll and guitar playing, and so that's, you know, and Latin spirit and passion is an incredible thing to me, and just people who love the music, not musicians, people who come see the shows are so amazing. You know, it's like, the first time television came to Argentina, I said, "You're not going to believe what the audience is like." And they were like, "Oh yeah, well, we've seen." I'm like, no, you're not going to believe it. And halfway through the show, when the audience was singing the solo to Marquis Moon, singing the solo.
Yeah,
Tom,
like in a stadium, like in a football stadium.
Tom, who never smiles on stage, looked over at me and gave me like a grin, and nobody could believe it. And so it better be even better here tomorrow. I'm hoping.
Hopefully that will happen.
I'm hoping.
And well, now living in
what
Argentina.
a long answer, huh? Man, this guy talks on and on.
That's
and
great.
on
That's
on.
great. That's what we want to listen to. So now you're in Argentina, and you've recorded it in every kind of studio that there is available, as you were saying, from Mariah Carey to Mick Jagger to Blondie to whatnot. But in Argentina, what are you finding regarding studios, regarding technology? Because things have changed, have evolved. What's the scene like there, and what kind of setup does the musician have over there?
Well, because there was a very big, first of all, two very big immigration and technology influences on Argentina were the British and the Germans. And if you're gonna look at studio technology, the best of vintage, what's called vintage, I just call it the best. The British and the Germans, that's it. If you can have a Neve board and Telefunken and Neumann microphones, all you need is a great song and a good band, after that. And there are many, many studios there that have old, perfect condition API boards and closets full of Neumann microphones and Telefunken microphones and lots of great vintage gear. And so that hasn't been a problem. The big problem there is maintenance. If anybody here is a studio technico who can repair things and you want to have a great year, go to Argentina and let everyone know that you can fix a Neve board or repair a microphone. You'll work every day. Because a lot of things are broken. And because of that ridiculously stupid importation laws in Argentina, it's very hard to get parts in. So if you can sneak some parts in your mochila, you'll be way ahead of the game. You'll make a lot of money. And everybody has a Mac computer, and it's the same as everywhere. There's one studio that I've made 10 records in there with a great engineer, and he's also produced a lot of big artists there, but he's a fantastic engineer, and this is his third version of the studio, and it's in a beautiful country house about an hour outside of Buenos Aires. The place is called Monsterland, but it used to be called the Abasto when it was in the city. His name is Alvaro Vijagra, and he has engineered or produced all the biggest bands of Argentina, Los Piojos, Guasanas, La 25, Ataque 77, Papo, Toro. Every time you hear a record on the radio driving in your car, I can tell just from the snare drum if it's Alvaro. And probably 5 of every 10 records on the radio were made by him. So he's my guy. Every record, we work together a lot. We're in the middle of making 3 at the same time right now. So, I talk about it, and in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, I should be sitting in front of a computer right now editing. But, it's much nicer to be here, not worrying.
And what kind of interest do you have into working with other bands, into producing other bands? Why do you like that, to be the guy instead of a studio?
Well, I spent so long in studios.
Yeah.
Hola. What happened? There? No. See, I talked too long. I wore out the microphone. To answer your question, I spent so many years in recording studios with producers who had very stupid ideas, I thought. Maybe they were good, I just didn't like them. So eventually I just said, well, I just don't want to have somebody tell me to do something so stupid, I don't want to play that. It's just horrible, And after years of that, I said, well, I just have to be the producer. Because I was driving me crazy. It was either that or just stop. And so it took about 10 years from the time I said, I tried to let people know that I didn't want to really just be the guy who came in for 3 hours and played guitar. So I want to make records. And so it took a while for people to accept that. And it wasn't easy. It really was not an easy time. I asked the advice of a lot of people. And the best advice I got was from a very great producer in the States named Chips Moman, who is a legendary producer. If you don't know him, he produced everybody from Elvis to Willie Nelson to, I mean, you know, a true legend. He just died last year, but he told me the first thing that I had to do was stop playing on the records that I produced. He said, as long as you're sitting in the room with the band, you'll never get respected as a producer. And he was right. He was right. You know, if the band says to me, we would love it if you played a solo on this track or that track, then I'll do it. But I've stopped sitting out, and for a long time I sat in the room, you know, with the band, you know, working, and I just stopped. I had to stop because he was absolutely right. He was absolutely right. As soon as you go on the other side of the glass, everything changes. Everything changes, and you get a lot more respect, and things get done faster. If you're sitting in the room with the band, they argue with you like you're just one of the guys. I'm like, no, this is not an argument. We need to do, you know, I'm now the stupid producer with the stupid ideas, telling everybody what to do. But hey, I put my time in, so that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Now, tell us a little bit about.
It wasn't until the Jerry Lee Lewis record. That was the record, because the record had a lot of success, and the list of people that were on that record are mind-blowing. There's a record called Last Man Standing, if you don't know the record, and but I mean, all the Stones are on it, and Jimmy Page, Ringo, Rod Stewart, Eric Clapton, Little Richard, Ringo, Springsteen, B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Willie Nelson, George Jones, Merle Haggard. I mean, 22 people on 21 songs. Every one of them truly a legend. And after that record, then people said, okay, he's a record producer. It was the biggest record of Jerry Lee's career, of his whole life. And it's a really good record. And so after that, all the work that I got, it was like, okay, you're the producer now. It's so okay.
What's the best lesson that you got out of making that album?
Patience. Really patience. That record took almost 5 years to finish.
Are you patient?
No. So it's a heavy lesson to learn.
So how do you handle the fact that television has been making songs from time to time? You've been recording some of those songs.
But that's different because television is Tom. And if you don't want to recognize that fact, you should not be in that band. And I know that it drove Richard Lloyd crazy. And I understand that because, you know, I've been with Tom 36 years. And but you have to realize that if that's not, if you can't accept that, you should not be in that band. You know, Tom writes the songs. Tom is the main influence on producing any track that gets made by the band, and he has a hand in everything. I mean, he finally, after years, stopped walking over to my amp and turning the knobs, which I finally had to tell him, look, I'm going to hit you if you do that again, so please don't do that again. If you want me to change something, I'm happy to change it, but don't just walk over and turn my amp. So we worked that one out. It's okay. But you know, television, it's Tom's band, you know.
And producing bands in Argentina, how different are they to your peers in the States? Do you feel like there's a different sensibility, like they are different in any sort of way, that us Latin Americans feel the music in a different way?
Well, I mean, I guess if I was, you know, making cumbia records or reggaeton records, it would be different. And I'm open to making a record like that because there's some of that music that I really love. And you know, at 5 o'clock in the morning, drunk on the beach, dancing, man, I love that stuff. You know,
the cumbia viajera.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that shit. And I very often listen to that music on the internet so that I can steal things, because every once in a while you hear something and you go, wow, what a great trick, or what a great beat, or what a great sound, and you take it. That's the beauty of music. Everybody borrows a little bit, and if you hear something unusual or something that you like, it's fantastic. As far as the rock bands that I've worked with, and no, I don't find it any different. I had to learn a lot of kind of musician castellano just to get ideas across. But once I did that, really, down there, like almost everywhere else, at the root of everything is the Beatles and the Stones. And we all relate on that level, except, I produced a band a couple of years ago. They were all very young. They had won a very big national Battle of the Bands contest. And they were not about the Beatles or the Stones. Because they were all 17 and 18 years old, and it's a really good record. But they sounded like, I don't know if you know the Argentine artist Luis Spinetta.
Yeah.
They were very influenced by Spinetta, like a combination of Radiohead and Spinetta.
Wow,
so
that's
they were
crazy.
a very cool band, and it
What's their name?
Now I always say their name wrong, but the English translation is my phosphorescent cousin. Mi primo, it's the phosphorescent in Castellano.
Fosforescente.
Fosforescente, gracias. Yes, that's the name of their band, and you can hear it on all those horrible places, Spotify and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Where nobody ever makes any money. We should talk about that, because I have a very long, good speech about downloading.
Just quick question before that.
Yeah.
Did you ever work with one of Spinetta's sons?
I did, actually, a little bit with both, but Valentino raps on my second solo record called Jimmy Rip and the Trip.
Okay.
That I released 5 years ago. And Luis was supposed to sing on that record. Luis became my friend. And I had written a song that was very much, years before I ever met him or had heard him, I wrote a song that just was in his style. So when I met him and began to learn about him, and I know him because he's a great friend of Juanse from Ratones Paranoicas. And I've worked with Juanse since the 90s, and he's my friend. But when I met Spinetta and I heard his music, I said, oh man, I have this song. And I played him the song, and he loved the song. So I said, well, would you sing on it with me? Would you rewrite a verse in Castellano, and we can sing it together? And he was so into it. And then for about 6 months, I would call him and say, hey, I'm in Buenos Aires, I have nothing to do, do you want to come? He said, no, I'm on tour. And then he would call me and I say, no, I'm in New York. And, we did that for about 6 months. And then one day he called me and said that he had just come from the doctors. And the doctor said that he had to stop singing for 1 year. And about 7 months later, he died.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So we never got to do that. And it broke my heart. Not only because he was a friend and he was such a great artist, but it would have been so great if we were on that record together. It would have been something to hold forever for me. But kind of as a little bit of a memorial or something, I asked he has 2 sons, and they're both rappers.
Yeah, Dante
y Valentino.
Yeah, from Ilya Kuryakin.
Ilya Kuryakin, see. But Valentino is younger and much more street and much more. So he rapped on one of my songs, which has a reggaeton beat. That's the first song on that record, called No Entiendo, Lo Siento. And so he did a very, very funny, great rap on that song. So I was happy to have a Spinetta on that record, kind of in tribute to Flaco.
Yeah. So do you want to do that Spotify?
My speech on downloading?
Are you ready for that?
Well, I've done it a few times today, so it's very rehearsed at this point.
We're gonna get the best version out of
Well,
it. You were
maybe, I
doing
hope
like
so.
sound check, yeah.
No, I'll try. Well, you know, everyone has asked that question. You know, how do you feel about the, you know, all that stuff? And like everything in life, there's a part of it that's very good, and there's a part of it that's just so bad and so wrong. I love the idea that people can listen to so much music and discover new things, and I'm talking about the internet and YouTube and Spotify and Pandora and all these things. That's great because there's so many records released. To actually go to the record store or to try to discover all these things is just so impossible. The bad side is greater, I think, and the bad side is something everyone is kind of aware of, but at this point has become, it's become so accepted to download things for free that, you know, I talk to people in their 20s and say, well, you realize that that's stealing. It's as much stealing as going into the store and taking a loaf of bread and putting it under your coat and leaving. It's just as much a robbery, just as much, maybe more, because to make the bread, it takes an hour, a guy in the bakery, some flour, some sugar, you know, whatever. But when you're talking about music, you're talking about people who have spent years learning to play, spent years of experience to write a song about things they feel deeply about, and then usually these days spend their own money, not a record company's money. People are spending their own money to buy the equipment in their house to make a record. They're taking their time, sometimes days and weeks and months to finish a record. And it's their guts, it's their heart, it's everything. And then you go online and you go click, click, click. It's mine now, sorry. You know, oh, I'm supposed to give you $1? No, I'm gonna go to YouTube and type, listen to YouTube, and you know, 30 seconds later, it's in my collection, and tough shit, too bad. It's so wrong. There's no way to fix it right now. Everybody knows that. There's no way to encrypt it. There's no way, because the second somebody writes a code to stop everyone from doing that, some 16-year-old brilliant kid somewhere is sitting in a computer going, oh, I can break that code. And they break the code and then it's free again. It's not right. It's really, really not right. And places like Spotify and Deezer and Pandora, you know, they pay so little. I mean, probably people here are aware because people in this room have a lot of knowledge of these things. But, you know, I did a lot of interviews today, and a lot of the interviewers were very young. And when I would tell them, like, look, even on my little solo record, I had 10,000 plays on Spotify. I got a check for $120 for that. 10,000 plays. It's just not right. It's insane. I mean, it's really insane. And, you know, I took a year and a half to make that record, and I paid the musicians myself. I paid for the studios. I poured my life into those songs, and that's what we do. That's what musicians do. That's what artists do. You know, it's your guts. And the thing is, people say, well, I love music, so, you know, I'm going to have the music, and I download it for free because I can. Well, they don't really think about the future. And the future is, look, I'm old. So, and I have a reputation, and a lot of people know who I am. I'm very lucky. It's very nice. So for me, I can keep making money in this world. I can go play live, or somebody always will pay me to do something. And the records I make for me, I make for me, you know. And when I am a producer for an artist, they pay me. So I don't have to worry about selling those records to make a living. But the person who's 20 and beginning and nobody knows who they are. They might be Stevie Wonder, or they might be Keith Richards, or they might of the future. They might be that good. They might be Prince. You don't know. But if that person can't make enough money to pay their rent, to buy some food, to have a little family maybe, to be able to have a band and pay them, to do something, if they can't make that money, they're going to stop eventually. What can you do? If you don't have any money from what you're doing, other than going to play at the little bar where maybe they pay you just enough to cover the gasoline for the car to get there, and oh, my amplifier broke, I need to put a new speaker in, and all these little things that cost everyone money. If you can't make enough to do that and buy your food for the week, people are just going to stop. Musicians are going to stop. It's impossible. Nobody can live. People are going to go drive an Uber, or they're going to go work in the bank, or they're going to do something else. So all these people who love music and take it for free, there's not going to be any more new music. They're just going to have old records to listen to. I love old records. I also love new bands that present new, exciting, different points of view on the world, whether it's punk music with political messages, or a new love song that maybe I can relate to, my life. But if you can't get those, if those people can't make $1 from doing that, there's going to be no music. There's really going to be no music. It's a crazy thing to say, but people are just going to stop. There's no choice in it. There's no choice in it. So, these places, you're never going to, I don't think you're ever going to find an encryption to stop the free downloading. But at least the streaming services have to pay a reasonable amount of money. It can't be 0.005 for a play, which is what Spotify pays right now. It's unbelievable. On the other hand, I don't resist putting out new music. I know that when I make my record, I just give it away for free, because there is no choice. So you have to look at records as marketing, because that's what they are now. Records, you put out a record so that a journalist will come speak to you. You have a nice conversation. They write something nice, hopefully. People read it. They go, I want to know more about him. Oh, he's playing at a show. I come to the show, and then the musician can make a couple of dollars.
Hopefully you will sell a couple of T-shirts.
Hopefully. But there's no other way to make money right now. Making money on a record is gone. It's over. The only money you make on a record is when you sell them at your show.
Yeah.
Which I do.
And, you released an album last
and it's
year.
Great. Yeah.
Didn't you?
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
It came out through
Pop art.
Pop art.
Yeah.
What's that about? You have a 3-piece band.
I have a 3-piece band con dos chicas, batería y bajo, and the band is called Jimmy Rip and the Trip, and it's kind of a very heavy blues rock band. This last record was about half covers, but very obscure, like Willie Dixon and Howlin' Wolf and things like that, and about half songs that I wrote. But it's very, very hard and very heavy music. Different. When you say it's a blues record, everyone thinks cha-chum, 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 cha-chum. It's not like that. It's more like a Jimi Hendrix record, or it's very interesting. I think the production is very interesting, and not the normal things. A little bit psychedelic, and it's a very cool record.
Have you been touring it?
And you can get it on Spotify and Deezer and Pandora and all those horrible places. It's there, because this is what we have. What can you do? We've been touring. We haven't gotten out of South America yet, but I'm hoping. I think we'll be coming here soon, which would be great. I would love that. And I think we have a festival in Memphis in October, which will be great, because the women in the band, they've never been out of South America, so they're very excited to kind of see more of the world. It'd be great.
And what kind of crowds do you like playing for? What kind of venues are your favorite ones?
I really don't care. Big ones and small ones. The biggest crowd I ever played for was 1 million.
What?
Yeah.
1 million?
1 million in
Where?
Central Park in New York on Earth Day in 1991 when I was playing guitar with Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Huh.
And we were the headliners of that Earth Day festival with the B-52s and Lenny Kravitz, and it was a very good lineup of people. And 1 million was amazing. I have some pictures from the stage that are, wow, it's forever.
That's crazy.
Forever. But then every Wednesday in Buenos Aires, I play a very interesting place that's half the size of this room. And I think like the rest of the world, Buenos Aires is going through a big blues. Blues is making a big comeback, and people are very interested in it again. It was that way in the mid-'90s, and it seems to be that way again. I mean, you have the Rolling Stones making a blues record. You have a lot of people who haven't ever made a blues record now are making blues records, old rock and rollers, And there's a club in Buenos Aires that's like an open blues night.
Yeah.
And everybody gets 3 songs. And the only rule is you have to play traditional, very traditional. No rapping, nothing modern, no drums, no. So you have 22-year-old kids from Argentina playing Robert Johnson and Son House and, Blind Willie Johnson songs and, incredible things. It's like, how do you know this music? Well, the internet. That's the good side of the internet because they downloaded for free Son House records. But, that's the good side. I wish they'd paid Son House's estate $1 for the song, but, that's a whole story that we're going to not talk about anymore. But, that's for 100 people every night, and the place is packed, and people sit as quietly as you are sitting right now and really listen and really love it. So the last 2 months, I've been setting up mics in the room every night, and we're going to make a vinyl record and kind of sell it locally, just to document it. Because when I'm there doing it, and I always play at the end of the night, and but when I'm there doing it, it just feels like such a special, amazing thing happening in such a strange place for it to happen. Okay, if we were in Mississippi, you would say, okay, I understand. But in Buenos Aires, people playing exactly right of Robert Johnson songs, it's a super cool thing, So, and it's fun for me because live recording and producing a live record is always very interesting and always a challenge, finding the right spots for the mics and what kind of mics to use and, how do you want to record it? Do you want to, the simple way or the very complicated way, because the middle way is always a disaster. Either you have just a little 4-track Tascam and you take 2 tracks off the board and 2 microphones hung in the best places, or you have a truck outside with the full, Pro Tools rig and, you get everything. But to try to do it in the middle with a laptop, and it never works. So you either go really stupid and simple or very, very complicated and expensive. I go stupid and simple.
Do you mind if we check in with the audience to see if someone has a question?
I'm talking.
¿Alguien
Somebody
tiene
else.
alguna pregunta para Jimmy el día de hoy? Veo que alguien levantó la mano de este lado y le vamos a pasar un micrófono para que los demás puedan escuchar qué es lo que nos estaba preguntando. Por acá, en la primera fila.
Jimmy, what is your favorite tequila? Heredoros Añejo. Oh, okay, sorry.
What's the creative process for you for making, as a guitar player, for making
English. Okay. Sorry.
for making riffs or for making some guitar licks? What's like your creative process for that?
It usually involves marijuana. Sometimes that helps, actually. It's like the only time I smoke anymore is when I'm trying to write things because it makes you think in a different way. I'm not telling anyone they should become a drug addict. But, one, and you put it out, you put it out right away, but just one little, and then just sit and play for a long time. The best way to do it for me, the way that I do it, is if you don't try to do it. Don't try. Just sit and play. And maybe you have a new pedal that you never used before. Borrow from your friend. You go, oh, that's really interesting. And you twist a couple of knobs and a sound comes out. And what you play goes with the sound. Always have something very ready to record, very ready. Or just set it to record and then don't pay attention. Have it always recording. But you get a lot of shit when you do that, things you don't need. So the second you hear something, you go, oh, I really like that. Boom, record, and then just keep playing. That's how I do it. It's nice to have the iPhone or any phone that has a recording app in it, because sometimes you're walking down the street and you're going, oh, that girl is so good looking. I'm gonna, and you go, oh no, wait, that girl is really hot. And you click the iPhone, and people think you're crazy because you're singing something really stupid into your phone. But maybe 3 months later, you listen to it and you go, oh, wow, that was pretty cool. I could make something out of that, And so I have 200 of those, and I could show you in my phone, 4 o'clock in the morning, hey, what the fuck am I, you put headphones on, oh yeah, oh no, that was good, So that's how I do. It can happen anytime, anywhere, but if you're writing riffs, the best way is just to be sitting. And for me, I love pedals. So to buy a new pedal, and if you can't afford to buy new pedals, because they're really expensive, maybe your friend has a great pedal, and you trade with him for a week. You say, I'll loan you my delay if you loan me that fuzz box, and then you sit and play with it, and things happen. Things happen. Or switch guitars, or play bass if you're a guitar player, or sit with a keyboard if you're a guitar player. It's great to, anything that makes you think differently. That's why I talk about that, because it changes your brain a little bit, just for an hour. Yeah. Okay. Jimmy Rip, drug addict, advocates using drugs to write songs.
You the rock and roll kids.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say in Spanish.
Okay, wait.
Hold on.
Okay. Wait, the translator is there? Okay, good, go.
Okay.
Listo.
Television no tiene redes sociales. Y ayer decía que...
Or social skills.
Okay. Solo tú.
Sí.
¿De qué cree? Ayer decía que todos están en sus 60 años, en her 60s, y la mitad de la audiencia es de 20 años, más o menos. ¿A qué cree que deba de que Television sigue vigente sin las nuevas tecnologías?
Well, it's all because of that goddamn Marquis Moon. No, it's thank God. But really, it's because of that record. People always reference Marquis Moon, and the reason for that, in my opinion, maybe Tom would have a different opinion, but we've talked about it a lot, so maybe not. But I mean, look, Tom is a very special, incredible guitar player who plays like nobody else. And Billy on drums, the same. Fred is, when you really listen to what Fred is playing on bass, is a very melodic, very subtle, very under the radar bass player. But when you really listen to what he plays, it's so beautiful and so perfect. What Richard Lloyd played on that record is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful guitar playing. It's an honor for me to kind of recreate that every time we play those songs. But for me, the true glory of that record, the genius of that record that has kept it going for 40 years is the production of that record. It's incredibly honest. There are no tricks on that record, nothing. There's nothing in the production that places it in a time. Nothing that tells you, oh, this was the 70s or this is the 80s. Some records you say, oh, well, this was a great record, but oh, it's so 80s. You know, oh, listen to the delay, listen to the reverb, listen to the, oh, so digital. Oh, they're playing the sin drums, dum, 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 dum. Say, oh, so 80s. But I really like the song, but oh, you know, oh, that's 90s record, you know, oh, so grunge. But you listen to Marquis Moon, it sounds like it came out yesterday. It sounds like it was recorded yesterday, because of the honesty of the production. There's nothing on there that's trying to make itself something else. It is what it is. It's a band playing their live show, and that's all because of Tom. That's all because of Tom. Tom is very, very single-minded about keeping the music, keeping it just pure tone, keeping the full, great tones of the guitar, keeping the drums without a big room sound, without a Led Zeppelin kind of drum sound, which people have been copying now for 30 years, the Glyn Johns Led Zeppelin drum sound. It's a great drum sound, but when you hear it, you go, oh, that's the Led Zeppelin drum sound, you know, even if it's a brand new band. But you listen to that television record, what you hear is just a great sounding drum. You hear a guitar, not with distortion, not with, you hear a guitar, you hear a Telecaster, you hear a Jazzmaster. You don't hear a Marshall amplifier on 10 going, argh. You don't hear that. You hear actually a guitar, which is a very refreshing, great thing. And I think that's what attracts, to answer your question really fully, every new batch of 20-year-olds somehow discovers that record, whether it's from reading about it or reading an interview with The Edge, or reading an interview with the guitar players in Radiohead, or reading an interview with Nels Cline from Wilco, or The Cure, or all of these bands that were very, very influenced by television, have all been very open about saying who their influences were. So people read those things, and they say, well, I better listen to this television band. I never heard of that, because the band is not worldwide famous. You know, if you know about it, you know about it. But if you don't, your friend has to go, have you ever heard this? Listen to this. And every new batch of 20-year-olds listens to it, and because it's such an honest, great record, they go, holy shit, how come I don't know about this? This is a great record. I love this record. They learn all the words. They try to learn the guitar parts. Impossible. So that's why I think, you know, we have about 40% of the audience guys our age wearing black T-shirts, you know, and they all go up to the front and they stare at my hands, and then they look over to Tom's hands, and they go back to, they're trying to learn the songs, you know, by watching the hands. Impossible. And then we have, like, you know, the guys and men and women in their 20s who have just heard the record and are so excited that this band still exists, that you can go hear it, you know, and we're excited that we still exist. Every day we are excited about it.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's really a pleasure to be here at the Marvin Festival, and I want to thank everybody involved, and especially Robbie Lear, who has been trying for more than a year. We were going to come last year, last May, and we were on tour in Europe, and it was impossible. And so we've been working with my manager, Andres Vignolo, who has been really instrumental in getting us here and making sure everything was okay. So, and everyone at the Marvin Festival has been so great. All the journalists that I've spoken to today, really great, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow night.
Un aplauso, por favor, para Jimmy Reeve.
Gracias.